Good afternoon or good morning to those dialing in from Europe or US, and welcome to Venturous webinar. Venturous Group is a city tech business builder and an investor. And my name is Jonas Pinske, marketing advisor for Venturous Group. Today we are pleased to have Tina Chopra, co-founder and CEO of Addlly AI, to talk about the future of marketing and generative AI. After Tina's presentation, we'll have a Q&A, so please post your questions in the chat function. So without further ado, please, Tina, over to you.
Thank you so much, Johan. Thank you. Hi, everyone who's joining in. Good morning, good afternoon, hello. We are saying hello from Singapore. Let me start by sharing my presentation. Johan, let me know when you can see my screen. Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Ventures Group. I am Tina Chopra. I'm the co-founder of Addlly AI and the CEO of the company. So we are a Gen AI company providing agentic workflows for enterprise customers. It's a lot to dive into, and I'm going to dive into that in a minute. So we are actually a 1.5-year-old company. We incorporated in Singapore, and the evolution of that has been through my journey first as a business journalist. So I started my career as a business journalist. I worked for magazines like Forbes Asia. I was editor of a magazine called Wealth, and that gave me a lot of information about content. So all my life has been about content and content creation. And then I moved on to a content marketing agency, and this is when the earlier wave of social evolution into social media and social networking was happening. And I've seen that cycle where brands actually wanted to be discovered more and more on social media, and content marketing, as we know, has now become a very, very important part of all marketers and all their KPIs and of all their goals. And in marketing, Johan, as you know, we talk about walled gardens. We talk about 3 types of walled gardens, which all marketers have to conquer. One is SEO under Google, one is social media, and that influencer economy is actually increasing. And the third one is what you have, your own data, which is riding on other networks. So when we started Addlly, ChatGPT had already exploded on the scene. And we had, the advantage of what I call as a second mover advantage. The first generation of tools had already come into the market, and they were mostly wrappers on ChatGPT. ChatGPT actually is, as we all know, the first LLM that hit the market. So using that information and that insight in my career journey, we started the company with the aim of helping enterprise customers to benefit from this wave of generative AI content creation that was coming in, and using their data, their first-party data, to actually create better content. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about, what has happened in the last 1.5 years after taking you through the journey, what Addlly has done. So we started with our first beta customers, and our commercial launch was in October. Thereafter, we became part of the IMDA Gen AI Sandbox. So this was a government initiative to onboard SMEs and help small and medium enterprise businesses to get on a fast track on adoption of generative AI and generative AI solutions into their workflows. The challenge that, before this, we were having a brief discussion, and the challenge always with generative AI or any new technology that comes in, enterprise customers usually are first movers. Small and medium-sized enterprises really need a lot of hand-holding, a lot of training, a lot of initiative to show them, how are the best ways in which they can integrate that tools. And this is what we managed to do under the Gen AI sandbox, IMDA sandbox. We are part of 2 accelerators aligned with the hyperscalers like Microsoft on their cloud and AWS, NVIDIA. And the journey has continued thereon. We already are commercial. We have 18 customers across 4 markets. And these are all enterprise customers. So I'm going to dive straight into, what has happened in the last 1.5 years after GenAI, after ChatGPT has come about. So at the launch of ChatGPT, OpenAI's large language model was the only language model that was available. But since then, I'm sure everybody has heard of other models like Anthropic, there's Llama, there's Mistral. There are other people are talking now. We are working towards small language models too, which I'm going to talk about too. And marketing has been ready, or the prime use case in which generative AI can actually bring about immediate functional benefits for people. And a lot of studies have already started to come in of how marketing is being integrated to make processes efficient, either in e-commerce or generating some of the product descriptions. Sometimes we look at marketing in a very glamorized way of, advertising and commercials and blogs and social media content and influencer management. But there is a boring part of marketing as well, which we marketers know. It is writing the product descriptions that get ranked higher on search engines. And a same kind of product information has to be customized for different target audience. So, I may be working for a bank and I may have a 2.5% interest product that I'm launching. And I want to convince senior citizens in a different way, Gen Z in a different way, my working parents in a different way. And same product information needs to be personalized and created over and over again. And what we know is generative AI is able to do that very, very efficiently. It is able to read our first party data and provide multiple options for hyper personalization. And early experiments or early use cases, not only by Addlly, but others in the market and papers have been published, indicate that when blind tests have been done, so, if users have been shown a copy that was generated by a human being versus a copy that was generated with the help of Gen AI, there have been cases where consumers have preferred, in some cases, a copy generated by Gen AI, and marketers are actually using and looking at solutions with LLM to be very, very viable solutions that can help them hyper-personalize content and also save a lot of cost and time. In marketing, one of the biggest challenges for large brands is time to market. How efficiently can you roll out your campaign? We work in campaigns which are 3 months, 6 months, 9 months out into the financial year, and we want to stick to our deadlines. And sometimes if you're creating the same content in English, in Bahasa, in say Chinese, Spanish, Portuguese, you may have to engage a lot of people at a lot of levels. But with Gen AI, this process can be enhanced a lot better. So coming back to the question that, if the trend is so positive, what is the adoption of Gen AI on the enterprise side? We have seen a lot of experimentation on ChatGPT, and you would have seen reports that, since the launch of ChatGPT, when other models have come in, and there is a lot of buzz around how people are probably using generations from one language model like Perplexity or Anthropic or Llama and comparing it to that of ChatGPT. So the first phase of evolution has been in people experimenting with what the use cases have been or could be, or the implementations could be. But right now, enterprises want to find a solution that meets their requirements. Anybody, in the audience, or you yourself, if you have experimented with ChatGPT or any LLM output, over time, what you realize, the 3 problems that exist are, first, that the output can be very robotic, right? So anybody with even a basic trained eye can know which output may or may not be. Of course, there's no 100% way of telling, because LLM output has also improved dramatically. But we know that some of the words which are coming out of LLMs are very repetitive, and the text can be not as personalized or human-like as we would like to be. The second challenge that people have is that, there's so much of change happening. As an enterprise user, you want to experiment with ChatGPT or GPT. You want to experiment with Llama. You want to work on, say, any other model for any language preferences you have, Anthropic, Mistral. How do you go about identifying which is the right one for you, and how do you go about implementing? The cost of all of this, of hiring AI engineers and everything, is quite dramatic at this moment. The third challenge, which our enterprise customers tell us, is data security. They are very, very worried about, is my data secure? And is the information that I am getting out of an LLM, is it hallucinating? So, we talk about hallucinations in large language models. Hallucinations just means when a large language model in output lies with confidence, which means it tells you that today is Sunday when it is not a Sunday. Today is sunny when it is not sunny. So, or it references some material and cooks up some of the information. And enterprise customers do not want to make a mistake. They also want the flexibility of using their data. A lot of enterprise customers have first-party data. And what I mean by first-party data, it can be a small shop. I'm suppose a small bakery, and I'm not even talking about large customers. To give you an example, and I bake specialty brownies, right? I only bake brownies. I don't bake anything else. But when I want to use an LLM-based Gen AI product to help me in my marketing, and I have to write a lot of blogs to explain to people why my brownies are better, why I have gluten-free brownies, and how my ingredients are sourced with the right kind of sources. I want the LLM to actually understand that information, that my brownies are gluten-free. They are actually very healthy because I use natural sweeteners, and I only have batch made, which are fresh. And all this information currently, for a small enterprise like this, which may be making a lot of revenue but is lean enterprise, for them to create something is a complex process as of now. So what are enterprises who wish to adopt Gen AI then doing about it? One of the options is, of course, take no action and wait and watch and say, okay, maybe 1 year down the line or 2 years down the line, I will jump on this bandwagon. Let me see what my competitors are doing. But as we progress and more competitors are adopting, we feel that there was a recent study in which CTOs and CIOs and C-suite executives are actually have mandates to implement Gen AI in their marketing, in their sales, in their strategy, in helping to stay ahead of the curve. The second option is actually they can go ahead and do a co-pilot kind of. So here is just an example of Microsoft Copilot, but you can go on. There are options on Gemini. There's Anthropic. There's Perplexity. There are a whole lot of options available for enterprises to experiment. Or the third option, like I explained, is to hire engineers. And the fourth option, actually, which I'm going to talk about, is how Addlly comes into play. Now, we have talked through what are the use cases. Here, I'm going to give you concrete examples of what early adopters are using Gen AI for marketing. So we know that the marketing opportunity in e-commerce itself on platforms. So, I go very often to Amazon, to Shopee, which is a platform in Singapore, Lazada, and, a lot of people go to other platforms in around Singapore, Zalora, or what have you, Sephora. And e-commerce and direct-to-customer marketing and direct-to-customer product segment is actually becoming a very big segment in itself. And that requires a lot of intensive work if you're going to talk to your customer who's buying the same product, maybe in a different age segment. So, or if you're talking to a customer who's buying this sitting in Indonesia versus a customer who's buying in an affluent market like Hong Kong and Singapore, their needs are different. And as a content creator, I have to create multiple such content for these people in their language and their preferences. Influencer economy is actually booming, and there again, I would like to point out there are so many studies which say that micro influencers and influencers themselves are becoming something which marketers cannot ignore. And then we have traditionally been communicating, as you know, after conversion, we also want the retention strategy on marketing, and it comes back to the responsibility of a marketer to support the sales side to keep retaining the customer. So, newsletters and intelligence and insights that we keep sharing become a very important part. And all of these use cases are being implemented using generative AI. One of the use cases which is not here, but it has been one of the early implementations has also been chatbots, and a lot of companies on e-commerce side are incorporating chatbots into their workflow. And that is a very interesting use case, which is so similar to what ChatGPT interface is, and we have all become familiar with that interface. Is if I have my whole product catalog, and I would like to layer it with a live interactive chat interface rather than having to outsource the same function to somebody sitting in an offshore market like India, Philippines, Nigeria. A lot of people are outsourcing their call center and back-end operations. That is also a very, very big use case that we are seeing implemented right now. But coming back to what are the challenges that currently people face for a simple project like writing a blog for an e-commerce site. Like I said, traditionally that has been that, for large enterprises, the challenges are different. And here, let me give you an example. So suppose you are a company which is you're headquartered in London, and you have a strategy and you come up with a plan for month by month or a quarter by quarter implementation of your marketing products and strategies. But you will need a regional team in a market like Indonesia, in Malaysia, in, say, Hong Kong, Taiwan, or any other regional market, Brazil, to implement that same strategy and same messaging. But sometimes you may be talking to them in a regional context. So what works in a market. So if you are selling a product in London, it may be sold differently in a market like Indonesia, where the pricing, the messaging, and the social context has to be very different. Just to give you an example again of a bakery product, and just to highlight, how Gen AI can come in. If I am an international chain and I'm just making brownies and cookies and selling them, and I'm headquartered in the UK, and I have a plan that we are coming up with another vegan range of products. But, a market like Indonesia or market like Malaysia or in the Middle East, they would want to know whether these products are halal certified or not. So those subtle nuances have to be built into the marketing communication messaging. And right now, the challenge is that somebody physically has to plan these things, has to write these things, and the approval and the timeline takes very, very long. But all of these things can be solved by Gen AI. Again, I talked about how Gen AI itself has evolved, outputs that we get from tools and tools which are content blog writing tool or social media writing tool, or maybe Chat GPT, or there are so many of them right now, or an image generation tool. they are all currently very prompt based, and they have a very fragmented workflow. So let me explain what that means. So now we are becoming very, very familiar with writing prompts. You tell me whether I should write a short prompt or a long prompt, and some prompts have to be written differently for a different large language model. But as a marketer, I know that my job is to plan and strategize and to think where my customers are, what my strategy should be, how should I talk to them differently on one platform versus one market, and whether I should have more top of the funnel messaging, middle of the funnel messaging, or bottom of the funnel messaging. If I am expecting all the marketing professionals to learn prompt engineering, I am bound to encounter resistance at the change management level. So having a platform or having an interface that actually knows and reads your data and is able to work through the data without you training is the ideal that every marketer would want. That is one of the biggest feedback that we have gotten with our early adopters, who are telling us that, right now, if they have to create one blog plus a social media post, plus an Instagram reel copy, plus a newsletter, they have to go either to multiple platforms to create it, or they have to go through multiple prompting to create it. And sometimes creating this on even AI tools available in the market right now, it takes a lot of time. And at the end of the day, the product that comes out or the output that comes out is very, very generic. So what can be done to solve this problem? So this is where Addly, or platform like Addly, comes in, and this is what we have built. Is we actually have a zero prompt single workflow process. And this is what I mentioned about agentic workflow. We are still in the early stages of the Gen AI evolution cycle. If you remember, how cloud computing started, and cloud computing became a buzzword, and everybody now talks about cloud and everything. But we must not forget that even that process took a long, long time. So in the early stages, we are at a stage where we are trying to use and retrofit the solution of LLMs to our current problems by relying more and more on prompting. But like I mentioned, as a marketer or as a salesperson or as a business strategy person, your your responsibility is not to learn prompt engineering. So we try to create a playground which is unique for each enterprise to create content based on their data. Now, what does that mean? Your data can be in a different format. And suppose you are a large skincare or a beauty care brand. You have lots of products for skin moisturizers, shampoos, lipsticks, and each one of them have different ingredients. What if a large language model or a model could be created which actually knew your ingredients, could ingest all that information, and was trained on it specifically around your products, your information, your brand guidelines, your unique insights of what your customers have said in the past. So your customers in the past would have said, I love this cream because it is light and refreshing. They would have said, I love this cream, but it is too light for the night use. And all of this is good data to be trained on for large language models. And large enterprises want to create these multiple input points, which they can use to create more and more hyper-personalized content. Imagine if, Johan, if you are into sports and you at some point in time went to a very, very high-end sports apparel wear, and you picked up something which you probably gave feedback to and said, I like it, but it was not durable. And if somebody from that company came back to you saying, okay, we get it, you didn't find it durable. Here is another product that we think would address your question about durability. And then you are shown the proof of concept of, how this actually is working. And they show you that, This product has been put through so many tests. So all of this is now possible with generative AI. For enterprises, it's a great way to actually pull in all the information, train a model, and bring hyper customization in different languages. And that is where Addly is building its platform. We are actually training the model not only for enterprise customers, but building it on by putting in all multiple AI models that I talked about. And what you can do as a result is that you can create SEO blogs, images, social media posts, direct mailers, Google ads, newsletters, everything in a single workflow without having to do prompt engineering or leaving that platform, going through multiple platforms. I'm going to talk in a while about, the evolution of how we see that and the use cases also in a bit. But where I want to draw your attention to is while we are discussing this, social media and search itself is changing. You would have heard that Google is actually launching something which they call now AI overviews, but a while back it was called SGE, so Search Generative Experience. So how we interact with search is changing. For those of us who have been in marketing for a while and who have done content marketing, we would remember a time where, when we used to search on the web for anything, we would put a very, very short word, beer, or, we would put a very, very short search query. But now keywords are being replaced by questions. People are asking questions on search. They are asking, what is the best restaurant for vegan food? What is the best restaurant? Where can I find a best steak? Where can I find best pork ribs? And these are the kind of questions people are asking, and that is why the kind of information that brands need to put out is also changing. More and more, as we see the evolution of search changing and our interactions with search versus social queries changing, we have to be mindful that as brand owners or people who are planning these brand strategies, we need to actually do a lot of social listening. Now, what does social listening mean? Social listening can actually mean multiple things at multiple levels. So social listening can mean I am able to understand what are the queries people asking, what are the hashtags which are trending, and whether based on those queries, are the queries different in a geolocation. So people around, say, a beauty product may be asking a different question in Singapore because it is so hot in Singapore versus people who are in London because it is so cold in London. And the questions around the same product may be very, very different. And all of this has to be built and can be built in our communication strategies going forward. And I'm going to show you an example of how we are doing it at Addly. So this is just one of the use cases for an enterprise customer. Let me play this video. So here you see what has happened is that by incorporating a product information and product category or product ingredients of any big brand or any of your brands, you may be big, you may be small. The whole idea of generative AI is it brings about a lot of data democratization. So you may be a large enterprise with a lot of data inputs, or you may be a small enterprise. Like I said, you may be selling candles, you may be a small enterprise, you may be an NGO, who's trying to reach out for mental health, mental well-being. There's so many subtle ways in which you may be communicating. All that information can actually be built in and made into a complete workflow customization that is only about you and about your brand. These are some of the benefits that I have talked about how Addly brings about. So what we offer is actually in a single window, you can go from ideation to actually a task copilot. And here I want to highlight the part about task copilot. All of us, we were at a big presentation yesterday in which, a lot of agency heads were actually talking to us about how they can actually bring the power of generative AI to their multiple customers. But they all shared the same insight that at this point in time, all of us want an assistant, somebody from like a generative AI assistant that can do 90% of the job, but we do not want a bot. We do not want to give the control to AI that it decides for us, it creates for us, it publishes for us. And that is where we are. We have already reached that generative AI tools in the market right now are actually good enough for them to assist us on many, many levels. Now, what are the three levels or three ways in which Gen AI is currently being used? So here I would like to talk a little bit more about the capacity or the power or usage of LLMs as of now. There are three pillars, main pillars for which AI can be used. One is generative AI. So we've all talked about generating outputs like a newsletter, a chatbot output, or any other output. The second is analytical aspect, and we have barely started to see or touch all these touch points where there is so much of data, first party data, that all of us have, even if we are a big brand or a small brand. And how do you analyze these patterns to come up with specific examples of creating content around it would be the second phase. And the third phase would be about prediction. So if you are my loyal customer and you and I have been interacting on a human level, if you come into my shop, I will know you, and I will know that you like sportswear or you like hiking and mountain biking. And then I will know over time that these are certain of the products that you would want for mountain biking. But when we interact on a large basis on an e-commerce platform, that information has to be collected. And if I can predict on an ongoing basis for my thousands of customers that if I'm going to launch a product that is going to be of interest to those customers and I target them, that would be the third level of predictive generative AI usage, which we are going to see very, very soon. Brands bringing about more and more hyper personalization and indicating that. As the another point that I feel that we have to wait for the future is, while we have seen uh, that, generative AI has been very good on text output. This is the nature of how LLMs have been trained. The LLMs actually have ingested a lot of written content, and the predictive models actually predict what is the next best match. But we are still, if you know that, images and image generation platforms, there are so many of them, are still work in progress. And so is everybody would have seen, some of the videos that have come out by Sora, but we are all waiting for a good video model. And this is also going to be the future where, if you have an idea, if you have a concept, if you have a script, you should just be able to click a button and then generate at least the first version of a video based on your script. And we feel those changes are coming and are going to be implemented very, very soon. The last bit that I want to talk about is inference. In LLMs, we are talking about how brands can actually use this. This is going to be the future where rather than using LLMs just for generating something, we help it to brainstorm, to be a partner, to be a complete partner in formalizing, in thinking, in planning, in strategy, and in analysis. So inference modeling or inference generation is, I think, also one of the use cases that we are going to see more and more over time. I would like to end with, before we open for questions, or if you have anything else that, what are the key benefits that we are bringing, or a platform like Addly brings, is that, we help all brands, to be a big brand or a small brand, to create content which is hyper personalized according to their market, in a very cost efficient way. One of the challenges in change management in early days, people kept talking about future of work, and they said, oh, people are going to lose jobs. But as we have seen the evolution, people who are adopting AI are actually becoming irreplaceable, rather than, those are the people who have the skill sets, who are advising others, who are actually leading the change and bringing about more strategy. And these are the people we are trying to empower with our tool. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tina, for this very in-depth presentation about marketing and generative AI. I mean, there's lots to talk about, of course, and I think you talked about a few of those things in the very end here. I just saw one of the questions in the chat here about what would the future be of a marketing team? Would people lose their jobs over AI? But it seems that that is not your prediction.
No. So, and our experience has been that, on the enterprise side, people are very eager to experiment and to use AI. And early adopters have seen that their skills have improved. So, there was a study which we had done as well. So if you imagine that I am a brand manager who has to think for 7, 8 markets, and I also have to do some execution work. And if by using an LLM, I can save 1 hour a day of my time, I'm saving more than 250 hours. I'm making myself more productive by 250 hours in a year. So if you consider, 52 weeks in a year, what that means is that I'm able to do more and be more productive. And when I am being more productive, my team benefits a lot more. And I am able to bring more value to my team, rather than becoming somebody who is just doing repetitive tasks. I'm using AI for repetitive tasks, but I'm doing strategy. I'm bringing more value, and I'm becoming more valuable to the organization.
And true. I mean, I think you raised challenges like the quality, the output quality, and also the cost, as well as security. What would you say is the ideal size of a corporation starting to adopting generative AI? Like, is there do you have a critical sort of the size of the company, or is this for any kind of startups to SME or multinational?
Right. So, of course, we have a plug and play model at Addly, where you can come in, and even if you are a one person, a solopreneur, you can start using the model. But the question that you asked is, if you want extreme customization, if you need more and more inputs on, how can you hyper personalize for a location? How can you hyper personalize based on my data? That training of the model is an expensive process, as we know. that, and that is why you see NVIDIA stocks and all these stocks are going up, because that requires a lot of compute, that requires a cloud, it requires engineers. So if you train more and if you have that training level, then of course the costs are going to go up. But Gen AI is for everyone. On Addlly platform, actually it is a free to use. So if you sign up using your corporate email, because it is a B2B platform, you get 6 free credits. You can start using it right away, and it is available for everyone, solopreneurs, small enterprises to large enterprises. The need of large enterprises may be different, and they may be using it differently, and we customize for them, but that's a different use case.
Yeah, and I think that was my next question about adoption time. So what you're saying is that anyone who wants to try out this could do so, and there's not really a long period of time that you have to go through certain kind of steps in order to get at least a taste of what Gen AI could do for your business.
No, you can do it right away. Like I said, our platform is free to use. If you just register, you can try just like ChatGPT, and you will see how it is a zero prompt platform in which, you don't need to know prompt engineering. All you need to do is, if I'm writing a blog, I just need to give a topic of the blog that I want to write, and the whole SEO optimization comes in a single workflow.
So what was this your prediction? Like, give it 2, 3, 5 years ahead of now. Where do you see the major breakthroughs in Gen AI?
On the marketing side?
Yeah, I think both marketing side and then general.
So a lot of changes on the general side are happening. I think we are talking about foundation models. So, GPT, the transformer model is a big foundation model in which, it's as we know, it knows everything about everything. But people are now working, but the cost of running those models, training those models, having specific use case for these models is high as of now. And the industry is slowly working to see if we can build a very specific, focused, small language model, as we are calling it, instead of LLM, SLM. So again, taking the use case, suppose I am a doctor and I want to create a medical, I just want all the information possible about the medical industry and medical use case or biotechnology use case. Why would I want a large language model which knows about fashion, beauty, lifestyle as well? I might as well just use a small language model that I can plug and play and fine tune and start using right away for my use case. On the marketing side, I feel the way we interact and we are using technology now is going to be very different 5 years from now. If you feel that we have too much of um, images, too many videos, that's going to go many, many fold. And traditionally in markets which have been dual language markets. So, for example, India, which everybody knows English, it's the language of business communication, but people speak in Hindi, and then in Indonesia, English plus Bahasa. If that is the language, more and more communication is now going to be possible in native languages. And brands are going to start communicating in native languages and create not only videos, images, but also create hyper personalization. So how you see the world and how the information that you get is going to be so different from how I see the information and I get the information. And brands will specifically move towards it for sure.
And I mean, listening to you, it seems like there are endless of opportunities and process to be streamlined and the cost to be saved and potentially also quality to be enhanced through this. Why would you say like an adoption rate were not as quick as one would hope? What would you think that is, and what will and then in the future increase the adaptation of Gen AI?
I think the adoption rate there is a lot of excitement. There is a lot of allocation that is happening. So the first few months was only excitement, and people didn't know how to create a good proof of concept. So if you're a large company and you are just take an example of a bank or a financial institution. If you're a big financial institution, you are a big real estate company, you've heard about chat GPT, and you've heard that LLMs are coming, but how you want to know how can you improve your processes in real estate or in finance, keeping in line with regulations and making sure that you do not harm any of the individuals. So that was one of the biggest challenges, that, I do not, early adopters are very, very clear that, I am not implementing Gen AI to cut down on my employee cost. I want to implement Gen AI to actually improve the productivity of my employees. And the second phase that we are seeing now, everybody is sure that, yes, we will not cut down on employees. We are just going to make them productive. And that is where we are seeing an explosion of use cases coming. And a lot of companies in this financial year and the next financial year have allocated more and more resources to implementing these as of now. So we are just at the beginning of the implementation cycle.
Looking at the questions, there are no more questions. Final thing, what are the key things that you will send to the audience and anyone who's listening to this? Key things out of your presentation, or your tips or suggestions for the future?
So my suggestions for anybody is, do not wait. Try generative AI. Generative AI is actually a very, very helpful, productive tool to help you do some of the repetitive tasks. And some of the tasks, it can be any repetitive task. So, I understand that some people, they have to write or communicate some information. So, one of the jobs that I did at one of the projects that I did was actually channel marketing. I don't know if anybody knows what channel marketing is, which means is that, we talk to distributors. So large companies sell products which are, say, a floor cleaner, but you're selling floor cleaners to all the hotels, and you're selling in bulk, and you send information about floor cleaners and the mixing average of water versus your floor cleaner to a bottle of water for each cleaner, and you have to explain this in Spanish, in Portuguese, because for the US market, in different languages, and you have to explain this. Writing this, explaining this, scripting this is a very boring job. And if you can outsource this, or you can have generative AI do it, it's a wonderful assistant. I mean, I think my key message to anybody is, don't wait. Just please experiment. Start immediately.
Great. I think we take that with us. Start immediately and experiment. Thank you, everyone who's listening. Of course, thank you, Tina, for spending this time with us here today. We'll be sure to follow this space closely the next month and years coming forward. So take care, everyone, and talk to you and see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.